everyone. Welcome to the Financial Success for Creators panel. I'm Cath, also known as Friday. I will be the moderator. I'm here with the Coalition of Parents in Esports, who are working alongside these wonderful panelists. We have JV, we have Adam, we have Scott, and we're going to talk a little bit about financial success. So to start off, if we could go down the line, Scott, starting with you, tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. So Scott Quinto, I work for Morgan Stanley, but within Morgan Stanley, a special unit that was created 10 years ago, Global Sports and Entertainment. My team, we cover the most NFL players at the firm. We have some Major League Baseball, we have musicians, and we're in esports.
Adam?
Everyone, Adam, founder of Weissman Law. We're a New York-based law firm, focuses on media and entertainment. About 8 years or so ago, we got into the creator and influencer space, and that's really been our primary focus since. So we represent a ton of creators, managers, studios, production companies, and creative agencies in the space.
John Bukosky, I'm the Chief Commercial Officer of Resurgence, so we own Ghosts, we put on these events, and just here to have a good time, and that's about it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you. To start off, and anyone can really take this, but JB, I kind of want to throw it to you, and everyone can kind of chime in. But sort of starting off, what are key steps that creators can take and things that they should be looking for when approaching financial wealth management?
God, it's a big question. So, back in the day, I don't know if any of you remember Machinima. Anybody remember Machinima? So I ran esports for Machinima, and I was one of their executive producers, but I also ran 14,000 YouTube channels at Machinima. And we had an algorithm that showed me the cream of the crop. And it was our job to leverage the cream of the crop and show them a pathway to success through creating content the right way, and taking you from digital to linear, where you make the big dollars. And the biggest thing that I helped manage a lot of these creators was, be careful at all the deals you sign. Just be careful at every single deal you sign, because it could follow you in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15 years. And then also surround yourself with people that are in it to win it with you. And as a team, I think people underestimate what their circles can do and not do for them, in terms of toxicity and being cancerous. And I'm a big believer, if you surround yourself with people that are positive, they will lift you and they will guide you. And there's no egos in creators, because you need a solid team as you grow. Once you hit 1 million followers, it's a whole different game. So remember, everything you do now is incredibly important for your growth.
I think on that part, really thinking about the deals you're entering into and making sure you understand. As a lawyer, I'm not going to expect everybody I work with or everyone I encounter to have a total understanding of literally every single legal issue that's going to pop up as a creator, because there are so many issues. But I think the big piece to sort of keep in mind as you are getting into your career, you're getting bigger, more opportunities are popping up, is you don't know what you don't know. And the way I approach working with folks, and the way I approach really suggesting what you should be doing, is have an understanding of sort of the general issues that are going to pop up as a creator. Know that people are going to hand you contracts that might not have your best interests, or could be hiding things that you shouldn't just sign without understanding. Understand general things like copyright and trademark and how that's going to work, because that is your stock and trade. That's coming up every single day. And if you start putting videos out there, or you start doing your streams, and you're not thinking about those things, something could come back and bite you 5-10 years down the road, even though you weren't giving it a thought when you first started out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of want to shift the focus a tiny bit and, Scott, ask you, as a financial advisor, what are your key recommendations for creators? What should they be looking to do with the money that they earn and that they make, or purchases that they are going to make for their content, what they're creating?
Right. Just to make a point back on the contract, I can't mention the player, but there was a NFL player, rookie, signed to a big contract. The agent gave him the contract with like 40-45% of the player's revenues going to the agent. It was terrible. And the player didn't check it with an attorney, and he tried to get out of it, but once you sign on the dotted line, it's tough to, But what I tell, and I think that there's a commonality between athletes, musicians, actors, esports, in that there's a big need for financial literacy, right? Tremendous need for financial literacy. So what I tell everyone is you have to present yourself as you're the CEO, you're the brand, and you want to surround yourself with the best, say, marketing, wealth management, accounting, attorney, which is why I work with him, because this is his space and he's good at what he does. And you're the CEO, and you want to have the best of everyone. And I was in a conversation, a lot of the issues that I see is having my tax guy, a regular tax guy down the block. And you see this, when every so often in the newspaper, some famous artist owes the IRS 6 figures. Well, why is that? It could be the business manager's fault, but it could be because you have a lousy accountant. You want to have
Could be an ex-wife too.
It could be the wife, but you want to have an accountant that's in that space. So for my musicians, it's a lawyer that covers that space. It's a CPA that covers that space. If it's content creator, I go to Adam and I have a CPA that is in that space.
I think kind of adding to that too, like a big piece of it that people don't really understand when they are starting to work with professionals is professionals are here to help you. And if you don't jive with that person and you don't really like them, then it's probably not going to work out long term. Just because somebody's out there and they say, oh, I've got a law degree and I went to this school, doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to do the right thing for you. So whether it's hooking up with a manager or a financial advisor, you get to know these people, understand that they have your best interests at heart before you start working with them. Because it's not simply a matter of going out there, picking the first person you see. It's who's going to help me out, who's going to educate me in their space. Because that's part of it too. Like I was saying before, part of it is not just having people that you rely on exclusively to do everything without you seeing. Part of it's getting the training and the education you need so you can start identifying things and go, oh shoot, this problem is popping up, rather than let it just kind of go by your head. You go, time to call my lawyer, time to call my financial advisor or my manager and figure out what's going on. And the faster you can get to a spot, not where you're identifying everything, but at least have that sort of like spidey sense of, I need to get X person involved, you're gonna be much better off.
I'll vibe off that. So in terms of creators here that maybe transitioned from esports or creator or naturally became a creator, make sure if you join an org, they have an opportunity for you to learn. As I just joined Resurgence about a month ago, my background is everything. I used to be the CEO of Ghost House Pictures, and I was one of the managers of Public Enemy, and then I did Machinima and a couple other things. So in terms of our org, we're bringing back education to our creators. And I'm gonna make sure our creators get time with world-class lawyers, world-class money managers, world-class social media experts, and others that they can learn these tactics for them to be better. As an org, it's not our job to be your lawyer. It's not our job to be your wealth manager, but it's our job to educate you to be better humans, better creators, and set standards for long ball. Everybody here needs to understand long ball in their creation career. Don't worry about the short stuff. It will come. Worry about what you do in 5, 10 years that leave your legacy. So education is incredibly important, whether you're with our org or other orgs. Make sure they step up and give you those assets and education. Please, get it.
Absolutely. I feel like kind of branching off of that, I think with, this industry being, more new than I would say music, film, sports, I think we've talked about lack of accessibility in terms of, finding people who can, be in your corner and help you with these issues. Do you feel like that there are common issues or traps that you find creators falling into because of how new and how different this industry, or maybe how similar in some ways it operates from others?
Yeah, I think our industry, we learned this at Machinima back in the day. I had creators under my umbrella that were making $250,000, $500,000 a month. And there became a lot of predators within there that tried to give you bad advice on what you do with that capital. And also people that wanted to be agents but weren't agents, or people who want to be managers, but you're not a manager if you've only done 2 contracts in your life. So just make sure you get the right people to look at contracts and your career arc. And anytime somebody serves you a contract that says exclusive in there, question it, red light it like 80 times, and get people around you that understand what that means, especially in perpetuity. that stuff will kill you as a brand. And if you sign it and it's a legitimate contract, you're not gonna get out of it. And therefore, you're gonna screw other deals as you're growing as a creator. And that's the difference between short ball to make that $5,000 or long ball, make that $500,000. So just be careful. Put good people around you.
Yeah, I think, I've seen it too many times, that first representation manager, agent, and in this industry, it's still a little nebulous. There are some people who try to wear many hats at the same time, but signing that first representation agreement is probably the single biggest deal that you're gonna have in that very first stage of your career, and you have to be extra careful with that. Yes, if there are things talking about perpetuity in that agreement, it's scary, and you wanna question why that's in there. On the flip side, when you're working on deals, perpetuity shows up and it is appropriate in some places. Sorry, but on that note, kind of like going into deals and deal terms, again, have an understanding of what's going on, and if you do have representation on your deals, make sure that they truly understand who you are. I will say I will say a story that does not identify anybody, but basically was recently working on a deal where creator with a very heavy emphasis on snack foods and kind of junk food and stuff, and they were getting this amazing deal with a very large food company to promote them. But then there was a 3-month exclusivity of, oh, by the way, you can't work with snack foods for the next 3 months, which was the basis of this person's channel. And I didn't even have to step in. Ordinarily, this would be me going in and yelling at the lawyer on the other side, being like, this is absurd. How are we gonna deal with this? Their manager jumped in before I even got a chance, got on a call with the other side and said, let me give you a deeper explanation of exactly what it is that my creator does. And that conversation then came back to me. I didn't have to do anything. I just had to redline that piece out and we were good to go. So really knowing that the people around you understand you is huge. Getting into bed with somebody who doesn't prematurely just because they're promising the world, you're gonna hurt yourself long term.
I just wanted to add, I was in Miami to JB's point, talking to a business manager who represents an artist, I won't mention the name, but the artist had a business manager, which was a buddy, didn't have the credentials. The buddy, the business manager, gets the artist $1 million gig. The artist performs, he's happy, great job. It was $1.5 million. The buddy pocketed $500,000.
Oh, wow.
I see it all the time. I see it all the time.
And so I said to the business manager, oh my God, did you tell the artist? Very touchy situation, because the artist, like, that can't be, that's my homeboy from back in, he would never do that, happens all the time. And then, one thing about investments, I don't think I would see it much in esports, but in football, the first thing they want to do is buy a restaurant. And it makes no sense, right?
Or a Ferrari, or a Lamborghini.
Or have 7 of them, maybe buy one, but not 7 of them. Or they want to buy, get into businesses that they don't have any experience, a lounge, a club. Well, that's great until a shooting happens, and then what do you do, right? So we kind of try to keep them, stir that away, but it's all about cash flow. You want to buy your mom a house? Perfect. You want to set everything up for the family, for your kids? But everything, in perspective, like you said.
Do it in a trust.
Do it, long term. But it's tricky because you get that money and you want to spend it and you want to, but it's a challenge. But if you get through to the athlete, you get through to the musician, then everything works out. And then we all know about the Billy Joel situation. Glass Houses was probably his best album, but he didn't make a nickel off it because the brother-in-law. Again, not having the best people qualified managing your assets.
Absolutely. And so that sort of brings me to a takeaway question for this panel that is, like, if you could, this is a big question, but really what do you want creators to be able to take from this panel? Take, advice, whether it's, being accessible or having the accessibility to be able to reach out to, you for financial other best, like advice, things like that. Like, what do you want creators to know from this panel? Big question. They all kind of are.
Still pondering.
Yeah, so it's sort of twofold. On the one hand, if you're getting into this business or if you're already in this business, take the time to learn, Google stuff. Go out there and have your toolkit of stuff that's going to help you. Not necessarily so you can do everything. Not necessarily do all your taxes yourself or structure your finances yourself or do all your contracts yourself, but at least so you know when you should be getting help with those things. And then the other piece, sort of piggybacking off of that, is, we're all sitting here on the stage because we like to work with people like yourselves. We're all accessible. Don't be afraid to Google a lawyer or a financial advisor's LinkedIn and look them up and reach out. I can guarantee the good ones are going to talk to you. And that's kind of really what you keep in mind, is nobody here is on a pedestal. It's really just like, reach out. The purpose of our jobs is literally to help folks in the space. So keep that in mind when you're reaching out. No one's ever gonna say, I don't wanna talk to you. And if they do, they're probably not the right person to work with in the first place.
So I've been doing this for 28 years, and I've seen it all. I've seen different market cycles. I got the scars to prove it. But the one thing that I think, and everyone talks about service, and you see it, you get the client in the door, and then the client gets ignored because you're on to the next client, right? So service is very important. All my clients have access to my corporate phone. I have a top 10 Fortnite player because he plays during the night. He texts me like at 4 in the morning. It's like, I gotta tell him. And then I have athletes that text me on the weekend. So there's a balance there, But if someone texts me on the weekend, I don't ignore it. I'll say, hey, I see it. I'll get back to you Monday morning, and I get back to it Monday morning. All emails, all phone calls get a response. It's a rule I have across my team, 24 hours. And there's no difference between the billionaire that I have as a client and the guy that's got 250 with me. Everyone gets treated the same, and I think that in my business, from what I see from my other colleagues, I think everyone tends to focus on the top 20, 30 clients, and everybody else gets ignored. And if you're one of those at the bottom that gets ignored, you're like, he doesn't reply, I sent him an email on Monday, it's Friday, I haven't gotten a response. That's how you lose clients. Now I'm talking for my business. So service is something that is very important to me and my team.
On my end, my biggest thing is educate yourself, right? Understand the business you're in. Understand the players that are in the business. Understand the distribution models of the business. If I went out there and said, does everybody here know what an SVOD, TVOD, or AVOD is? How many people would raise their hands and know what that is? So YouTube would be considered an AVOD. They're advertising, right? Transactional video on demand, subscription video on demand. So understand when you make content, what your window strategy is. What are you making content for? Don't make content just to make content. Have a strategy. So always educate yourself in your business. Put the right people around you that you can trust. It is a weird business. All of a sudden, somebody finds out you made $500,000 and they will turn on you. Money changes people. So make sure you have people around you that aren't going to be changed by a dollar bill. Secondly, reach out to people in the industry. There's a lot, like anybody here that wants a question from me, I will take your call. I will sit down with you. I will tell you what I know. I've been doing this 30 years, right, in the entertainment industry, from film, music, and gaming. I will give you my knowledge. I'm happy to do so. You don't need to sign into, our creator network. Get help. Be humble. And then the last thing, make yourself uncomfortable. Try things that you never thought you would do before as a creator, right? Get out of your norm. Don't just sit in your chair 3 hours a day, play one game, say the same shit. It's not timely. Over time, it gets boring. Make yourself uncomfortable. Make something different. Follow a different hobby. Do different things. So please, make yourself uncomfortable in a positive way. You might find new beginnings and new paths. Ask questions all the time. Get help. Surround yourself. This is an industry of people that care about you in general. And there's great people in this industry. So I'm happy to take anybody's time. Literally, I'll take anybody's time. And that's kind of my last thoughts.
Absolutely, those are wonderful insights. Thanks, y'all. I want to open it up to a short Q&A before we're done. If anyone has any questions, they're more than happy to answer right here. It's okay. I know it's scary.
I'll ask a question.
Do it, yes.
So we hire a lot of creators to help boost viewership and engagement for our events. And one thing that we're really trying to get better at, and I think it comes from both sides of the industry, is we have to be very definitive on what we're asking the creator for. Like, do you have to do a call out? Do you need to do a tweet? You know, what is it that you need to do? So how does a creator look at that framework? Like, is that kind of like their guidepost as well? Like, are they depending on that?
So when I first got into the industry, again, not as long as these guys have been working, but about 8 years ago, no one was sending contracts over for any deals. It was you were getting text messages. And my first real client in the space was actually a mid-sized management company. They were managing influencers, and I remember sitting down with the CEO and just being like, "This is chaos. What are we gonna do?" And eventually, over the next 6, 7, 8 months, we started suggesting contracts to these brands who are so used to texting. And at first, it was mostly just making sure that our talent got paid. But then over time, there were more terms that came in. And at this point in the industry, you get a contract, it's gonna come with a style guide and a brief outlining everything down to a T, without exception. And if you do get a contract that doesn't have it, you know that the entity, the brand, or the agency on the other side has no idea what they're doing.
Yeah.
Really, it's come to the point where your steps are all laid out. They're laying out how many revisions you have to give. They're laying out what happens if disclosure isn't made properly and all those things. So it's really gotten incredibly nuanced and specific. And as a creator, what you need to make sure you do before signing that contract is, if you are being given some sort of style guide or brief, make sure it actually jives with the work that you do. Because I have seen situations where you're given a brief that is just so contrary to the usual stuff you're putting out there. And the last thing you want is to be forced to do a video or a shout out on a stream or even just a photo that is so out of the norm for who you are, and it's gonna make your feed look just bizarre. So think of those things up front. You get instructions, talk about what those are, and if a brand goes to you and says, "I want you to do X, Y, Z," and it's not something that you've ever done before, granted, maybe you wanna get out of your comfort zone, but if it doesn't match, have that conversation up front, otherwise you're gonna be stuck when you sign the contract.
And I think it's up to, like, the people I manage, I will never put them in a bad situation, ever. Shame on me for doing so. So it's my job to work with the brand or the live event or whatever to understand, run a show. Why is the run a show this way? Where do you want to put my talent? What do you want them to talk about? And then highly define even what you want to talk to them about, even if it's scripted. I just want to know what it is. And before I even sign the deal, I'll sit down with my client and say, this is what it is. Does it match your brand pillars? Does it match your persona? And just make sure that if you have a manager, bend them over backwards. Get them to understand who you are and never let them put you in a bad situation, because it's our fault. And then it comes back to you, and then you're not going to call me next year for the same kind of activation. And I just lost my client 5, 6 figures, 7 sometimes. Shame on the manager.
And the same thing goes for us, because we are hiring the creator to deliver what we've promised the brand. So when we hire a creator, we're also taking a risk on that creator. So you following your contract and everything that we've laid out in there mitigates risk on our part too, because we have gotten in trouble before with creators that do not follow it and we lose our brand relationship over that.
It's the only industry where the artist is the person putting out the stuff at the end of the day. There is so much more risk inherent on the brand side too, compared to really music, film, theater, anything else. It's absolutely wild to see. So it makes sense that this has developed into such a complex space.
Well, I think too, if you've been doing this a long time, remember, esports has been around 2 decades. I mean, I used to schlep one of my daughters 20 years ago to Sundance and Mike's events way back in the day. And it's to the point now that the people that didn't take a custom approach and understanding the brand have screwed over a lot of brands. This is why esports, it's in the position it's in, because all the Fortune 500s that came into it were signing loosey-goosey deals that nobody gave a rat's ass about. And then it made us look bad, made teams look bad, made production companies look bad, and the publishers were at a point like, screw this.
Awesome question. Thank you so much. I think that's going to wrap up our panel. So if we can give a quick round of applause for our panelists, that would be great. Instructions on where we're going nice. So thanks y'all so much again for listening.
Thank-